Have you ever thought about the Christmas story you know? Not the story itself, but the version of it. The one with the glowing stable, the peaceful animals, the silent night. Because the real story doesn't happen in a greeting card. It happens in a war zone. Jerusalem in the final years of Herod's reign wasn't sleeping in heavenly peace. Ancient sources describe an atmosphere of suspicion and fear. Herod had executed many members of the Sanhedrin and ordered the death of his own sons. And somewhere in this chaos, a child was about to be born who would threaten the most dangerous man in the ancient world. Herod the Great was a genius. He rebuilt Jerusalem's temple and constructed massive fortresses that still stand today. But by his final years, something had gone catastrophically wrong. The Jewish historian Josephus describes symptoms that have led modern physicians to propose several possible diseases: chronic kidney disease, severe infections, conditions similar to flesh-eating gangrene. Ancient accounts describe his body as putrefying and infested with worms, and ancient sources describe escalating paranoia and cruelty. Josephus writes that Herod relied on informers throughout his kingdom, creating an atmosphere of fear. Shortly before his death, he ordered his son Antipater executed. Before that, 2 other sons, and his beloved wife Mariamne. A later source attributes to Caesar Augustus this quip: "It is better to be Herod's pig than his son." The joke works because Herod was Jewish and wouldn't eat pork. This is the world Jesus was born into, and according to the Gospels, his parents had to make a dangerous journey right into the heart of it. The Gospel of Luke links Jesus' birth to a census, though the exact timing creates chronological puzzles scholars still debate. What we know is that Roman censuses were tools of imperial control, and the journey from Nazareth to Bethlehem, about 70 to 90 miles through dangerous country, was perilous for anyone, let alone a woman about to give birth. When they arrived, Luke tells us there was no room in the inn. Early Christian tradition says Jesus was born in a cave used as an animal shelter. So Jesus was born to a displaced family, born in occupied territory, 6 miles from the most dangerous man in Judea. Now we get to the most sanitized part of the story, the Magi. You know the song, "We 3 kings, 3 wise men on camels." That's actually not in the Bible. Matthew says, wise men or Magi from the east came to Jerusalem. No number, no names, no camels. Historically, Magi refers to Zoroastrian priestly groups from the Persian world. Scholars debate whether they came from Parthia, Arabia, or elsewhere in the east. One strong theory connects them to Parthia, Rome's mortal enemy. Rome and Parthia had been locked in brutal wars for decades. So imagine if these Magi were perceived as connected to Parthia, foreign dignitaries from Rome's enemy arriving unannounced in Jerusalem. Matthew tells us they asked, "Where is he who has been born king of the Jews?" Matthew says Herod was troubled. His entire legitimacy rested on him being king of the Jews, appointed by Rome. And now mysterious visitors, possibly from Rome's enemy, asking about a different king. It's easy to picture Herod, paranoid and ruling a border state, suspecting political intrigue. He consulted the religious leaders. Where is the Messiah supposed to be born? The answer, Bethlehem. According to Matthew, Herod told the Magi, "Go and search carefully for the young child, and when you have found him, bring back word to me, that I may come and worship him also." Matthew makes his true intentions clear. Herod had no intention of worshiping anyone. Matthew says the Magi found the child and presented gold, frankincense, and myrrh, gifts for a king, a priest, and someone who would die. Then they were warned in a dream, "Don't go back to Herod," so they went home by another route. Joseph had a similar dream, according to Matthew. "Flee to Egypt. Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So in the middle of the night, the Holy Family became refugees, fleeing violence, crossing borders for safety, heading to Egypt beyond Herod's reach. Matthew 2:16 says, "When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under." This is the massacre of the innocents. It appears only in Matthew's Gospel. Josephus, the Jewish historian, doesn't mention it. Some historians question whether it occurred. Others argue that Bethlehem was a tiny village. The number of male children under 2 would have been perhaps 10 to 20. In context, one small atrocity in an insignificant village might not have registered in the historical record, but it fits Herod's profile perfectly. A paranoid tyrant dying in agony, convinced enemies were everywhere? Matthew clearly believed he was capable of exactly this. Meanwhile, the family had already crossed into Egypt, political refugees seeking safety anywhere beyond Herod's kingdom. So this is the story as Matthew presents it. Not a peaceful tableau, but a story of empire, refugees, and violence. According to the Gospels, Jesus wasn't born in a palace. He was born in an animal shelter, in occupied territory, under a puppet king. He became a refugee before he could walk. When Herod died in 4 BC, Matthew says the family returned, but not to Bethlehem. Fearing Herod's son in Judea, they settled in Nazareth, a nowhere town in Galilee. The sanitized version of the Nativity is easier to put on a card, but the version preserved in the Gospels is more powerful because it reminds us that the story, as the early Christians told it, begins not in comfort, but in crisis. Not in safety, but in danger. Not in peace, but in the shadow of violence. The message isn't that the world was fine as it was. It's that light comes into darkness even when the darkness is overwhelming. Herod died in agony, remembered as a tyrant. The child he tried to kill, according to the gospel accounts, outlived him. And the story we've been telling for 2,000 years. It's not Herod's story, it's the story of Jesus.